So hello students, a very good afternoon to all and welcome back to Daily Newspaper Analysis. Today is 18th of May. Let's start our discussion for today. So for today, these are the 5 important articles from The Hindu. So I think today's each and every article is important, especially for the prelims. And if there is some significance related to mains, we shall be discussing those also. And finally, a practice question for you. Okay, so here let's discuss the summary. So our first article which we shall be discussing will be related to ordinance. Recently an ordinance was promulgated by the President of India, and what was the objective? Objective was to increase the number of Supreme Court judges in India. So an article related to it we have already discussed. So we shall be discussing the details of this ordinance. Second very important article is about a copper plate which was recently returned by Netherlands to India, and it was a copper plate from the Chola era. That's why this plate is very important. Third article is related to Parliamentary Standing Committee. So recently Parliamentary Standing Committee have released an important report, and that report showed that only around 50% of MPs are attending the meetings of departmentally related standing committees. So this is a major concern for India. Next article is about the Ebola outbreak in Central African region. So we shall be discussing because this is also a major concern which was highlighted by WHO. And finally, an article about Amur Falcons. So UPSC has the practice of repeatedly asking questions about species in prelims. So about Amur Falcon also we shall be discussing in detail. Okay, good afternoon, good afternoon. Now, please focus on what all we are discussing about this ordinance because many things can be asked in exam related to this ordinance. Okay, so what is the topic? Topic is President of India has recently promulgated ordinance, and ordinance was related to increasing the Supreme Court judges' strength in India by 4. So see, earlier the strength of Supreme Court in judges in India was 33. This was excluding Chief Justice of India. So if we are including CJI, then it will be 34. So recently an ordinance was promulgated so that we can increase the overall number of judges to 38, from 34 to 38, and this 38 includes 37 Supreme Court judges as well as 1 Chief Justice of India. Now please note that why this ordinance was issued. See, ordinance was issued because at present Parliament is not in session. So please note that ordinance have the same role of a law which is made by the Parliament, but ordinance is a temporary law. No, so it cannot continue even if Parliament is present. So why ordinance was issued? So first important thing is Parliament was issued because recently Parliament was not in session. Now, please focus on this because this question has already been asked in prelims. So, question was asked that according to the Constitution of India, how many sessions can be there of Parliament in a year? Some question, something kind of this was asked in prelims. So please note that nothing has been mentioned about number of sessions in the Constitution. In Constitution, it is just mentioned that between 2 sessions of the Parliament, not more than gap of 6 months can be there. So according to the convention, India is having 3 sessions of the Parliament. What are those 3 sessions? First session will be the budget session. Second session will be the monsoon session. And third session will be the winter session. So basically, if we talk about the budget session, so somewhere from around January to May will be the budget session. Monsoon session maybe will start from July to August. And if we talk about the winter session, so winter session can be from around October, November to December. So please remember that Parliament or all the MPs in the Parliament do not sit for all the 365 days for making law or for discussing anything. So according to convention, mainly Parliament sit for 3 sessions in a year. So budget session, monsoon session and winter session. And the time which we are talking at present, so at present this is the recess period or this is the intermediate period for the Parliament in India. That's why at present Parliament is not in session. But it's not like if Parliament is not in session and any emergency occurs, then what we will do? We must have some kind of mechanism, right? So that mechanism we call as the ordinance. So in these situations, when Parliament is not in session and any emergency is there, so ordinance can be promulgated by President of India or the governor of the state. So at present, we are talking about the ordinance related to Supreme Court judges. So it will be, this ordinance will be promulgated by the President of India. So if we talk about ordinance, so ordinance is issued by President or promulgated by President under Article 123 of the Constitution. Please remember this article is very, very important, and question has already been asked on ordinance also. I think in 2025 only the question on ordinance was asked. So please remember this. Now quickly tell me in the comment section that since we are talking about the ordinance power, so governor of any state also has this power of ordinance. So tell me in the comment section that ordinance power of governor of any state is written or mentioned in which article of the Constitution. So please tell me quickly this in the comment section. Now, next thing is that yes, ordinance is issued, and what was the objective? Objective was to increase the number of judges in Supreme Court. So see, since Parliament is not in session, but there is the requirement to change the earlier act. What was the earlier act? It was the Supreme Court Number of Judges Act. It was the earlier act, but now we need a change. So that's why to change that act, this amendment ordinance of 2026 has been introduced. And when the Parliament comes in session, maybe it will become a law or maybe it will be repealed. So at present, this ordinance was issued. Now, another important thing for you to note here is that when we are increasing the number of judges, in Supreme Court, then it will be requiring the constitutional amendment, right? So here, as you know, that constitutional amendment can be done in two ways. It can be done through simple majority also, and it can be done through special majority also. Now, when we are talking about the special majority, so if constitutional amendment has to be done under Article 368 of the Constitution, then those type of topics require special majority. But if we are talking about the increasing or decreasing the number of judges in Supreme Court, then this can be done through simple majority only. Please remember, this thing can be done only through simple majority, and Parliament can simply amend the previous law, and hence the number of judges in Supreme Court can be increased. So please remember that changes in the number of judges in Supreme Court require simple majority, and it does not require special majority. Now, okay, so one question I have already asked, that please give answer in the comment section, that ordinance making power of governor of any state is written in the which article of the Constitution. Second thing, yes, just a second. Is it visible? It is visible, right? Yes. Okay, okay. Okay, so I think we discussed each and everything, that whether this thing can be done through simple majority or special majority. We discussed about the sessions of the Parliament. We discussed about the article under which ordinance is issued. Now, tell me, answer one more question in the comment section, that whenever we discuss that Parliament has the authority to change the number of judges in the Supreme Court, or whenever we talk about the composition of Supreme Court, so which article of the Constitution deals with all these things? Which article of the Constitution deals with overall composition of the Supreme Court judges? So please answer these two questions in the comment section. Now, since we are talking about the ordinance making power, so quickly let's discuss about Article 123 of the Constitution. So Article 123 of Indian Constitution gives the power to President of India to promulgate ordinance. Okay, so what is ordinance? Ordinance is temporary law making power which can be done by executive, but this is not a permanent one, because the overriding powers will be with the Parliament. But when this ordinance can be issued, it can only be issued when both houses of parliament are not in session, or when either of house is also not in session. Then also parliament can be, then also ordinance can be promulgated, because to make law you require both the houses. So when even both the houses are not in session, or even when one of the houses also not in session, the ordinance can be promulgated. Important thing for the exam is ordinance making power of the president is not a discretionary power. Please remember this, because I think in the previous some of the sessions we already discussed that the governor of any state has two kind of discretionary powers. So one will be constitutionally and one will be situational. If we talk about the president of India, so president also has some situational discretionary powers. Discretionary powers means president have some kind of powers which can be used without consulting the council of ministers. So these all things president can do without any consultation. So here important thing is president cannot promulgate any ordinance without consulting or without the aid or advice of council of ministers. Please remember, this is not a discretionary power, and this thing was also asked in 2025 prelims. So please remember, whenever you read anything, whenever you read about prime minister, about president, about governor, please read about their duties, their functions, and please read whether they can do something under their own discretion or not. Next thing about ordinance is that since we are saying that ordinance will be somewhere equal to the legislation making power of the parliament, that's why okay. Now, next important thing is that an ordinance is subjected to same constitutional amendments as any parliament act. That means, see, parliament cannot make any law which violates any fundamental rights. So similarly, ordinance can also not be made on any topic which is violating fundamental rights. So basically, what all things parliament can do, all those things can be done under the ordinance. Now, next important thing is that every ordinance which is issued by the president during parliament's recess or during the break time, it must be presented before both houses of the parliament upon the reassembly. So see, consider this. For example, at present, parliament is not in session, and because of that, an ordinance has been issued by the president of India. Now, let's say in the coming monsoon session, now parliament is reconstituted. So when parliament is reconstituted, so this ordinance will be put in front of both houses of the parliament. Now, if the parliament accepts or approves that ordinance, so it becomes an act. Okay, but if this ordinance is even rejected by any of the house or by either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, then this ordinance lapses. So if I ask you the question that for maximum what amount of time, what period of time an ordinance can exist, so I will say, see, first of all, constitution says that the time period between two sessions of the parliament must not be more than 6 months. So first of all, I will be having period of 6 months, that at least any ordinance can survive for period of 6 months. Then after that, if parliament reconstitute once again, and if approval is not given, then after that also for more 6 more weeks an ordinance can survive, and after 6 weeks it will lapse. So if I ask you the question that a maximum for what period of time an ordinance can survive or exist, so you will say 6 months and 6 weeks an ordinance can survive. So I think these were the important points about the ordinance. Okay, so this was the first topic. Okay, so please answer these questions, that under which article government of governor of any state has ordinance making power, and which article of the constitution discusses about the composition of the Supreme Court judges in India. Now, next article is related to historical plate from Chola era. Okay. So, what is the news? News is recently Chola era Anaimangalam plates in possession of Leiden universities, which is in Netherlands. It was recently returned to India. Now, first of all, let's have a basic idea about the historical plates or historical inscriptions. So here at present, we are talking about copper plates from Chola era. So see, as you know that at present, if government wants to issue any notification or government wants to issue any advisory or government wants to keep any official records, then we have options of paper based records, we have option of online based records. But earlier in those times we did not have any these options. That's why various kingdoms used the method of inscriptions. So there were various purposes of inscription, and one of the important purpose to keep the inscription was to store the official records. So what all things will be covered in the official records? If any kingdom has given any grant to any other kingdom, so land grants will be included, or for example, if you are collecting tax revenue, then those kind of revenue will be included, or if king want to issue any kind of royal order or official order, so all those royal orders will be mentioned in the inscription. So this was the basic purpose of the inscription in those times. So now come to the recent news. So recently, centuries old Anaimangalam copper plate, which are also known as Leiden plates, were returned to India by the Netherlands. And why it was returned? Because when there was Dutch possession in India in those times, this copper plate was taken illegally to Netherlands and it was preserved there. So now at present, what Netherlands did, it returned India that important plate. So see, this thing is known as restitution. Restitution means whenever any country return any cultural heritage or return anything to the country to which that particular thing belongs. This is the meaning of restitution. Now, if we discuss about this copper plate, so important thing is that this 11th century copper plate inscription belonged to Chola period. And what is the importance of this? It is important for the historical records of various Chola dynasty. So what is mentioned under these records? See, under these records, important thing was that these inscriptions were written in both Tamil as well as Sanskrit. So it's very, very important. This can be directly asked in prelims. That no, UPSC can give a simple statement that during Chola period only Tamil language was used. So this will be wrong because the inscription shows that Tamil as well as Sanskrit language was used. And second important thing which we can decipher from the inscriptions, that this inscription contains the record of royal grants which were issued by the important rulers like Raja Chola and Rajendra Chola. So see, in Chola dynasty, not each and every king is important, but when we talk about Raja Chola or Rajendra Chola, these are some of the important kings. So whenever you read about any dynasty, read all the works of all the important kings. Like when we talk about Raja Chola, so the Thanjavur temple of Brihadeshwar, it was built by Raja Chola only. So these are some of the important points which can be asked in prelims. So here also, this inscription mentions about the royal grants issued by the Rajendra Chola as well as Raja Chola I. Next thing is, they document all these inscriptions. What they document? They document gifting of Anaimangalam village revenues to Chudamani Vihara, which is a Buddhist monastery in Nagapattinam in Tamil Nadu. So basically, what this is saying, this statement is saying that okay, so that in Tamil Nadu, there was a Buddhist monastery which we call as Chudamani Vihara. So according to these inscriptions, the revenue of Anaimangalam village, which is in Tamil Nadu, all these revenues were gifted to this Buddhist monastery, which is located in Nagapattinam. Now, why this thing is of significance? Because if we talk about the religion which was followed during Chola period, so that was Hinduism. But here we are talking that that revenue was gifted to a Buddhist monastery. So this shows the religious tolerance which was prevalent during Chola time. So that's why I was discussing this, that though the Chola rulers followed the religion of Hinduism, but then also they had religious tolerance and they were gifting or granting revenues to other religious places also. Now, if we talk about Nagapattinam, so these things are also very important. Nagapattinam was an important port city during the ancient period or during the medieval period. So you have to remember this also. Okay. Next thing. Now, okay. So next, let's discuss quickly about the significance of all these kind of inscriptions. So see, as we already discussed, first of all, that what was the important thing which we came to know from inscriptions about the language, that what language was used. So Tamil and Sanskrit language was used. We came to know about the grants or giftings which was done during those periods. So if we summarize all these things, so what is the significance of inscriptions? Inscriptions help us to know about the administration of any kingdom, right? Inscriptions help us to know about the religion. Inscriptions help us to know about the cultural activities like the religion, about the dance or music, which was prevalent during that period. And especially if we talk about the Chola kingdom, so if we are talking about this inscription, so we also came to know that Chola were important naval power. They were important naval or maritime power and they had connections with other countries. For example, the inscription mentions that Chola Empire had deep connections with the Sri Vijaya kingdom of present day Indonesia. So basically, see, if this is coast of India and this is Tamil Nadu, this is the area of Tamil Nadu. So here this Chola kingdom had connections with many Southeast Asian countries, for example, Indonesia, for example, Malaysia. So these were the important findings which we came to know from this plate. Okay. Now, next article is related to a report of Parliamentary Standing Committee. So according to a recent report, average of 53% of MPs attend meetings of 16 parliamentary standing committees. This is according to Public Account Committee data. Now let's discuss the complete issue. See, we discussed what is the context. So first of all, let's discuss the functioning of parliamentary committees in India. Then we shall be discussing what all is happening. So see, if we talk about okay, okay. If we talk about parliamentary committees in India, so basically parliamentary committees in India we can divide in two types. The first will be the standing committees and next type of committee will be the ad hoc. So standing committees means the permanent committees which are permanent in nature, and ad hoc committees the committees which are formed on case by case basis. Now, in standing committees, if we talk, so in standing committees, we have various kind of committees. For example, here we will be having financial committees. For example, here we will be having department related committees and other type of committees. For example, committees for welfare of women, committees for SC/ST, welfare of SC/ST, etc. So these are the standing committees which are permanent in nature, and in standing committees, we have various type of standing committees. Now, the recent report of Public Account Committee says that in meeting of 16 department related parliamentary standing committee, only around 53% MPs were present since their reconstitution in 2025. So basically, see, here the article is talking about department related standing committee. So it is saying that department related standing committee, which is one of the permanent committee of parliament, in that only around 50% of MPs are present. See, why this is of major concern? Because the main purpose of this parliamentary standing committee is to discuss all the major issues which are happening in the country. And see, this article is talking about the department related standing committee. Department related means these committees are linked to all the particular ministries. For example, any committee related to agriculture, or any committee related to culture, or any committee related to finance. So since the number of MPs are very less in these committees, so deliberations or discussions cannot happen. So what the article is saying, that because there is absence of MPs, so committees cannot discuss important subjects like agriculture, energy, finance, external affairs, etc., etc. And recently 5 committee meetings had to be postponed because there was no quorum present. So what is the meaning of quorum? Quorum means the minimum number of MPs which are required for functioning of that committee. So even we could not gather minimum number of MPs so that that committee can function. And according to Parliament rules, this is very important, at least 11 members must be present for a committee to function. So can you imagine what all things are happening here? Okay, so I think we discussed about all these things. Now, briefly discuss about the significance of this issue, that why this issue is very, very important. So see, as we already discussed that in any parliamentary standing committee, we have MPs, right? And here we are talking about the department related standing committees. Department related means they will be related to particular ministry, for example, agriculture or finance. So that's why we say that any parliamentary standing committee is considered as mini parliament of India. It is considered as mini parliament of India. Why? Because all these committees will examine all the important bills. They will examine government expenditure, how the ministry is functioning, how the how the grants which were demanded, how we are expending all those we are spending all that money. So this is the major functioning of any parliamentary standing committee, and that's why we consider it as mini parliament. Why? Because see, if we talk about the parliament at large, about the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, so can you imagine that? No, can you consider that each and every small technical issue, each and every issue can be discussed in the parliament? So answer will be no, because issues are huge. We have very less time. That's why we know we were where we started working towards parliamentary standing committee, so that each and every small issue of particular ministry can be taken by these committees, and hence any result can be found or any scrutiny can be done. That's why these parliamentary committees are very important. Now, experts say that these committees are extremely important because we already discussed that parliament have very limited time for the discussion. Now, if the quorum is very less of these committees, then this will weaken the accountability of the government, because if not many members are there, then who will ask the question to the government, right? So if these committees are not functioning very well, then this will weaken the accountability, as well as it will reduce the legislative scrutiny, and it will limit the deliberation on any important national issue. For example, the recent issue of the NEET UG paper leak. So if any committee want to discuss that issue, and even after that, if quorum is not present, then they can discuss, or how they can come to any conclusion. So that's why all these things will be having a major, what we can say, a major drawback on the democracy of this country. So it will be having a major negative impact. So that's why this issue was very important. Okay. So now our next article is related to outbreak of Ebola virus. Okay. So here the news is that recently WHO has declared international emergency as Ebola outbreak kills more than 80 people in Democratic Republic of Congo. So here many things are important for us. The first important thing is recently WHO, that is World Health Organization, has declared Ebola outbreak in Congo as well as Uganda a public health emergency of international concern. What is the meaning of this? So this public health emergency of international concern, this acts as a early warning, or this acts as a warning that Although at present this disease is not present in each and every country of the world, but it can spread quickly. So that's why it's kind of warning. So if we talk about the COVID-19, then before being declared as a pandemic, that was declared as a public health emergency of international concern. So this is kind of warning which is released by WHO related to any disease. Now, if we talk about the places, then in which two places this outbreak had happened? So it happened in Congo as well as Uganda. Why this outbreak is very important? Because this outbreak is caused by an important strain of Ebola virus, and that is Bundibugyo strain of Ebola virus. And why it is very important? Because this is very rare and we do not have any approved vaccine for this kind of virus. See, we shall be discussing in detail about all the strains of Ebola virus. For now, please remember that there is a particular strain of Ebola virus, that is Bundibugyo strain, and for that we do not have any approved vaccine. That's why this thing is very important. Next thing for you is the specific names of the places which was in the news. So here the outbreak began mainly in the Ituri province of the Eastern Congo. Very important. The name of this place is very important because Ituri province has already been asked in prelims. That now I think in 2023 it was asked about North Kivu and Ituri province is related to which region of the country. So that's why whenever these kind of places are in news, for at least look for these places in the map. So here outbreak mainly began in Ituri province, and Ituri province is in Congo, and later it spread to Uganda, including cases reported in Kampala. So Kampala is in Uganda. So here from this statement, what all you must know, that Ituri province is located in Congo and Kampala is located in Uganda. Now, can you see that this virus started from Congo and this virus has spread to Uganda? That means this virus is crossing the boundaries. That's why WHO has declared it as public health emergency of international concern. Now, since we were talking about Ituri and Kampala, so it's important for us to look for all these places on map. So, first of all, we will talk about Ituri. Let me change the color. Okay, so here we have Ituri. So this is the region, this is Democratic Republic of Congo. This is the region of Ituri. So Ituri region is located at the boundary of Congo and Uganda. So at present, this Ebola virus has crossed the boundary and now it has reached to Kampala, which is capital of Uganda. So these are the important places which were in news. Now quickly, let's discuss about the Ebola virus. Okay, so now Ebola virus, we shall be discussing about the prelims related points. So Ebola virus or Ebola virus disease. So formerly this virus was known as Ebola hemorrhagic fever. So Ebola virus disease was earlier known as Ebola hemorrhagic fever. And this is a severe, often fatal infectious illness which is affecting humans as well as primates. So important thing for you to know that this is a fatal disease. Fatal disease, that means it can cause death also. Because many disease may cause illness for long period of time, but those disease may not cause death. So important for you is that this is a fatal disease. Second important thing is that this disease will infect humans also, and this will affect animals also. Very important, because some of the disease are like they spread from animal to animal or humans to humans. No animals or humans both are involved. So very important thing is that it affects humans also, it affects animals also. Now here comes the important point, and news is related to this only. The point is, Ebola virus is caused by viruses which belong to a genus of Ortho-Ebola virus. Now, Ortho-Ebola virus have 6 important species, and out of these 6 important species, 3 species are very important. First species is the Ebola virus itself. So Ebola virus, Ebola virus is the general virus. Whenever we talk about Ebola virus, this Ebola virus, this Ebola virus, or Ebola virus, second kind of species which is also Ebola virus, Sudan virus. We are discussing about under all the species. Next is Bundibugyo virus, species of Ebola virus. So the new thing about this third, so basically what we have discussed till now, that we can talk about Ebola virus. And also Ebola virus, these important species which can cause disease. So more and more diseases are related to these species under all Ebola virus. Okay, so here our news was now. Quickly, let's discuss about the origin of Ebola virus. So mainly, this virus was first identified in 1976 and it was identified near Ebola river, and because of that only this virus got its name. So it got its name from Ebola river, and another outbreak happened in South Sudan. So origin, if we talk about the year, so it started from 1976. In 1976, strain was identified in near Ebola river and near South Sudan. If we talk about the transmission, so transmission animal to human as well as human to human, both kind of transmissions are possible. Animal to human, that means zoonotic. So if UPSC asks this question that whether Ebola virus disease is zoonotic, so answer will be yes. Zoonotic means any disease which can be transferred from animal to human. And who are the natural carriers? So fruit bats are considered as the natural host of Ebola virus. Second thing is that these are the fruit bats, and for example, fruit bats have transferred this Ebola virus to humans. Now, if one human is infected by this virus, then this virus can be easily transferred to other humans. How this can be transferred? It can be transferred through direct contact, like with the blood or bodily fluids of the person, etc., etc. So what is important for you to remember is that animal to human as well as human to human, both kind of transmissions are possible. Where this virus was first identified, it was identified in the Central African region near the Ebola river and near South Sudan. What was the year? It was 1976. Now, if we talk about the symptoms, so symptoms are very common, that initially person will be having fever, extreme fatigue, etc. And as we already discussed, that it can lead to fatal consequences also. So maybe it can lead to vomiting, diarrhea, kidney impairment, etc., etc., and finally death. Now, see, as we already discussed, that here the major issue is that this type of virus is caused by a rare strain, that is Bundibugyo strain of Ebola virus. So why we were discussing this? Because when we discuss about the treatment of Ebola virus, so at present, licensed Ebola virus vaccines are available only for the Ebola virus, that is ortho Ebola virus Xirenes. See, we already discussed about the species or strains of Ebola virus, right? So, at present, we have vaccine for this kind of strain. We have vaccine for ortho Ebola Xirenes. But at present, the outbreak is related to this strain. That's why this is a major concern, because at present, we do not have any approved vaccine for this kind of strain of Ebola virus. Okay, so this was also important whenever we talk about vaccine. Do we have Ebola virus vaccine for all these strains? No. So we have approved vaccines for ortho Ebola virus Xirenes, and these are the approved vaccines for Ebola virus. Now, okay. So here next article is related to satellite tagged Amur Falcons returning from Africa. They are set to cross India. So first of all, let's discuss about this, because there are very interesting facts related to Amur falcons. So see, first of all, tell me that can you imagine that a small bird can cross across the oceans between the continents without stopping? So here I am talking about a bird which can cross across the oceans, which can cross the continents, and even this bird can do all these things without stopping. So can you imagine that this kind of bird even exists? So yes, answer is yes, this kind of bird exists, and the name of this bird is the Amur falcon. Uh, yes, then Lakshmi, what is the issue? So are you talking about the buffering issue? Because no, in between there was some no internet connectivity issue. Okay, so here we are discussing about a bird which can fly across the oceans, which can fly between the continents, and that too, that bird can do without stopping. So here we are discussing about the Amur falcon. So if we talk about this bird, so this is one of the most extraordinary bird migrations in the world, because for migration, this bird migrate across the oceans between the continents, and that too this bird can do without stopping. So this is very important. Now, if we talk about various characteristics of Amur falcon, so Amur falcon is a small migratory bird of prey. That means Amur falcon is a raptor bird. Raptor bird means any carnivorous bird which depends on the other animals or other birds for its food. So basically, it depends on the prey for its food. That's why we say that Amur falcon is an important bird of prey, or is a raptor. Now, these birds travel thousands of kilometers every year without stopping between the breeding grounds as well as wintering grounds. So consider that this is India in between, and here we have African continent, and here we have Southeast Asia, this region. So what is happening, that this region of Africa will be a wintering grounds for these Amur falcons, and this region of Southeast Asia will be breeding grounds for Amur falcon. So what these birds will do, these birds will migrate across the oceans between the continents. So whenever these birds are going from African continent to Southeast Asia, so in India they will take a stop, or in India they will take a halt. So that's why it is important for India also. Because if these birds are going to stop in India, then we have to take measures for conservation of these birds, for habitat of these birds. Because if these birds are stopping in India and they are not getting good habitat environment, they are not getting good prey, then they will not survive. They will not even reach their breeding grounds, which is their main destination. So if we talk about major stops in India, then in India, major stops is the Northeast Indian states. For example, Nagaland, or for example, Manipur. These are the important North Indian states where these birds will take a major halt. So these are the major transit corridor for these birds. Now, if we talk about another important fact about Amur falcon, so another important fact is that these birds can fly for around 6,000 kilometers, and these birds can fly for around 6,000 kilometers, that too without stopping. So 6,000 kilometers is a very big distance. Now comes about the news. So news is about the satellite tagged Amur falcon. So first of all, let's discuss why satellite tagging is done. So see, in satellite tagging, what scientists do, scientists will attach the tiny tracking devices to these birds. For example, this is a bird. This is a bird. What scientists will do, scientists will attach a tiny tagging device to these birds. So these devices will regularly send the signals which can show the location, which can show the movement of these birds, which can show the migration. And how these information will help us, what is the significance of this, these information will help us to study the behavior of these birds. So this is the major purpose of satellite tagging these birds. So news is related to this. So what is the news? News is that recently a satellite tagged female falcon, and name of that falcon we have given as Alang. So recently, a tagged female falcon Alang was tracked while it was traveling from Arabian Sea, while it was crossing Arabian Sea from Somalia. So Somalia in the Africa. So basically, Somalia was the wintering ground, and this bird was going to its breeding ground in the Southeast Asia. So recently, this female Amur falcon has crossed the Arabian Sea. Now, if we talk about the conservation efforts of Amur falcon, so earlier, thousands of Amur falcons were hunted in Nagaland, in the northeast state of India. So after that, what government did, that since we know that Amur falcons take a stop or take a halt in India, and if large amount of hunting is done, their population will not survive. So after that, what government did, government started awareness campaigns, especially in the northeastern states of India. And after awareness generation, local communities started protecting Amur falcons. In fact, we have in some of the states of Northeast India, we have Amur falcon festival also. So that's why now at present, Nagaland is globally praised for the conservation of Amur falcons. Okay, so now quickly, let's discuss some of the prelims related points about Amur falcons. Okay, so first of all, quickly see the picture. Then this is how Amur falcon looks. So it have grayish feathers and somewhere it have some of the white lines in its feathers. This is how Amur falcon looks. Now, quickly let's discuss about the prelims related points. So first thing is that Amur falcons are the small and agile birds and they are the raptors. Please remember Amur falcons are the raptors. That means Amur falcons are the carnivorous birds. That means they depend on the other animals or birds for their food. They are not dependent on the fruits or grasses. Next thing is about the migration. So let's understand migration in this way. This will be the interesting way to understand. So see, as I've already discussed, this is India, this is Africa, and this is Southeast Asia. So what these Amur falcons do? For them, African region is the wintering ground and Southeast Asia is the breeding ground. And while they are moving from here to here, they take a stop in India. So India is a major transit corridor for Amur falcons. So here, if we talk about the migration, so they migrate from northern China, eastern Mongolia, and far east Russia to South Africa. And so basically, here we have the wintering ground, and here we have the breeding ground. And approximately, they cover a distance of 22,000 kilometers. If feeding we talk about, so already we discussed that they are carnivorous, they are raptors, so they depend on insects, they depend on other animals, and they depend on other birds. And as we have already discussed that earlier, these birds were hunted, but after the awareness generation, various conservation programs are being started, and we also have the Amur Falcon Festival in the northeastern India. For exam point of view, IUCN status of any species is very important. So IUCN status of Amur falcon is least concern, very, very important for exam. Okay, now it's okay, no? Okay. Okay, so I think we discussed all these things. Yes, now a practice question for you. So practice question is with reference to Amur falcon, consider the following statements. First is, it is a migratory bird species known for the longest transcontinental migrations among raptors. Second is, it breeds in Eastern Asia and migrates to South Africa during winter. Third is, India lies along its important migratory routes, especially through the northeastern region. So I think we discussed in detail about Amur falcon. So I think it will be easy for you to answer this question. So give answer of this question in the comment section. And in between also, I think I asked 2 or 3 important questions. So try to answer those questions also. And yes, one more important question. Since we discussed about the parliamentary committees in India, so give me one more answer in the comment section. The question is that whether there is any mention of parliamentary committees in the constitution, and if all they are mentioned, then under which article of the constitution parliamentary committees are mentioned. So you have to answer this question, you have to answer the practice question, as well as you have to answer 2 questions which I asked in ordinance about the article of the governor's ordinance and about the article of the composition of Supreme Court judges. Okay, so yes, I think that's all from my side for the discussion. Thank you.